At the beginning, you talked about depression and anxiety. We
Yeah,
talked about depression. Can we discuss anxiety a little bit? What what do you have to say about anxiety? How you know how could you help somebody that's struggling with anxiety? What would you tell that person?
breathe.
Breathe.
But that's a little too simplified. First and foremost, I would say that we tend to try and push anxiety away. But what if you challenged it and said hello to it instead? Hello, anxiety. I see you today. I'm aware of you, but I'm actually not going to let you run my life today.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of pushing it away, because when we push it away, it just actually makes it worse often. So acknowledge it. Yeah, I see you. You're there. That would be my first thought. And then being mindful, being present, doing grounding exercises are very helpful. And also looking at if it's situational to certain circumstances. I often will ask, like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Is that really going to happen?
Sorry, can you go back to that one more time? You had mentioned um, asking yourself what's the worst that can happen.
Yeah. So asking yourself, if it's situational, like, what's the worst that's going to happen? And an example of that, I'll go back into a personal one that I had many years ago. I needed to move. We had thought we were in a house that we could stay in for a long time. Our landlord decided to sell the house. So I was actually sick, quite unwell at the time with fighting Lyme disease, and had children living at home that were depending on me for that security. But now, just due to all the circumstances, it was a tough situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we needed to move. And I started to ask that question: what's the worst that's going to happen? Because I was fighting a lot of anxiety through that. What's the worst that's going to happen? I went, well, the worst that's going to happen is I will live under the bridge with my 4 children. Best case scenario is we're going to have an open floor concept because we're living under the bridge, there's no walls. And so I was making a little bit of light of it. And then I
Mm-hmm.
went, how likely is that going to actually happen? It's not. It really wasn't going to happen. A couple things. I knew that I had enough friends and family that would go, yeah, that's never happening. Even though I didn't want to rely on them for support, I knew that they were there as a last resort. So that would have been my worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, it's like, yeah, I'll live out of a hotel for a couple months with my children and we will pretend it's a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that became my worst case scenario. And with that, the anxiety subsided. And I was like, I was able to set the anxiety down enough then to make some good decisions.
Interesting. It sounds to me like anxiety and stress are in the same family. Is
Often,
that accurate? Or
they often are, yes.
okay. What would you say the difference is between anxiety and stress?
Anxiety is symptomatic. I mean, stress is as well, but anxiety is often like it can come with symptoms of a racing heart, clammy hands and palms, not insomnia, which stress does as well. But anxiety may have more symptoms than what stress, immediate symptoms than what stress
Mm-hmm.
does.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. So anxiety is going to have a lot more physiological effects than what stress might. Where you're stressed, you might just be a little bit tense.
Yeah, you might be
And
tense. Your mind might still be racing. Your shoulders tight. Your body's just, even your thinking might be more rigid. Whereas anxiety can feel like a runaway ship sometimes.
mm-hmm, where you have no control and it's just all running wild.
Yeah, you feel it in your stomach sometimes. Everyone experiences it in different places, and I'd encourage people, like, check in with your body. Where are you feeling the stress or
Mm-hmm.
the anxiety right now?
What can that look like? Checking in with your body. Can you go describe that a little bit?
Absolutely. Where do you feel the stress? Where do you feel the anxiety? Everyone feels it differently. I feel it in my stomach
Mm-hmm.
when I'm really stressed. So anxiety, I feel in my stomach, and my mind is just racing.
Yeah.
Whereas in my shoulders, if I'm really, really stressed, I feel it in my shoulders and my neck.
Yeah.
They feel just tight.
So what do you do when you feel that?
The best thing is to do a grounding exercise.
Okay.
My favorite grounding exercise is to tune into your senses. Deep breathe. So I'll picture a peaceful place. I love the ocean, so I picture the ocean. And with each inhale, I picture that peaceful place. And with each exhale, I picture the stress leaving me. So I'll do that 3 or 4 times. And then just to bring myself back into the moment. And then I become aware of my senses. What am I feeling? What am I, and feeling physically, like if I'm outside, the sun on my skin. What am I smelling, tasting, and what am I seeing? Oh, hearing, and what am I seeing?
What are you smelling, tasting, hearing, seeing?
Exactly.
Just focus on right now.
Right now, in this very moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So does that help because anxiety is worrying about often, well, it's probably not the same every time, but thinking about something that's going to happen or worrying about the future or the past, something that's already happened?
It is, absolutely. Anxiety can come because we're scared of something in the future and the outcome or how we're going to get through it. It can also come because we've experienced a painful situation in the past, and what we are in today feels too similar to this, even though it's not. It's kind of like, I had a counselor explain to me years ago. They talked about a lighthouse, and he says on the lighthouse is a beacon. That beacon light's going back and forth, looking for danger to warn the ship that there's rocks or there's danger. And our minds are like that, going back and forth, looking for danger. And when we've experienced danger in the past, that light is even more sensitive. And it can be, I may, an example might be that I was in a car, if I was in a car crash back here, now getting in a, that's danger. Now, when I get into a car today, even though there's no danger in this moment, it still looks similar. So that our minds, that beacon light in our minds is going beep, 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 there's danger. And so it's learning to bring that back into the moment and go, no, that was in the past. Today is the way it is. Today is okay.
Mm. Interesting.